Good evening, barflies and lounge lizards, and welcome to the Atomic Snack Bar. And tonight we'll be discussing 5 more of my favorite 1950s sci-fi aliens. But you haven't seen the first part? It doesn't matter. And number 5 on the list, the aliens from Earth vs. the Flying Saucers from 1956. And Earth vs. the Flying Saucers tells the story of a scientist in charge of a space program that has been launching satellites into orbit. After the mysterious loss of said satellites, and the little matter of Dr. Marvin seeing a flying saucer, he starts to think that aliens might be involved. Turns out, he was right. The satellites were indeed destroyed by aliens who have fled their own destroyed solar system. And soon, the alien invasion flying saucer fun begins. And these fine fellows are a double whammy, because not only do you get them in their awesome looking life support suits, but also in their true, almost Zeta-like appearance. The life support suits, which are made of not metal but solidified electricity, are smooth and sleek and resemble something from a pulp magazine cover. Then their actual form, hairless, thin, and gray-like, is rather unique for the time as well. Though I've read theory that because of their advanced age, courtesy of the suits, they were probably once closer to human in appearance. As far as the design and construction, the effects of Earth vs. the Flying Saucers is generally credited to Ray Harryhausen. But other than the scenes of the invaders exiting the saucers, it doesn't look like he had much to do with the actual aliens. That would have been a Russ Kelly, but don't quote me on that. Actually, never quote me on anything ever. But Kelly was a prop maker who also worked on The Lost Planet from 1953. The suit actors in the film are uncredited and unknown, but the voice of the aliens was done by the man of 1,000 voices, Paul Frees of Haunted Mansion fame. Frees' dialogue was recorded on reel-to-reel tape, which had the speed control turned up and down during playback in order to achieve the strange sound of the alien voices. And number 4 on the list, the Cyclops Squid from the Atomic Submarine from 1959. And the Atomic Submarine tells the story of an underwater UFO, or more specifically a USO, that begins attacking ships in the Arctic. A high-tech atomic submarine called the Tiger Shark is then put on the case. They soon discovered that the USO, which they dubbed Cyclops, is actually an extraterrestrial craft, and within is one of the finest eyeball creatures ever to grace an octopus-esque body. And this charming fellow has what is actually rather moderate, small-scale plans for a few select humans. As mentioned, this is a great creature design and very effectively done. As I've probably said, I'm a real sucker for eyeball creatures, especially puppets. Now, this is yet another film with very little information and quite a few supposedlies. But hey, what would the snack bar be without a whole bunch of supposedlies? Actually, don't answer that. The special effects on the film are credited to several different people, including Louis DeWitt, who worked on the giant behemoth, the Phantom Planet, and Monster from Green Hell. Then we have producer and effects artist Jack Rabin, who also worked on the giant behemoth, as well as the Man from Planet X, Invaders from Mars, and a little film I've never discussed before, ever, Robot Monster. But mainly I wanted to highlight Irving Block, who it's often said was the one that operated the alien puppet in the Atomic Submarine. Block was a writer and effects artist who co-wrote the screenplay for Forbidden Planet, and came up with the story ideas for both Atomic Submarine and Kronos with Jack Rabin. Effects-wise, he worked on The Invisible Boy, Rocket Ship XM, and the Giant Behemoth. The alien eyeball squid was voiced by John Hillard, and this is his only film credit. And the last, supposedly, of the entry, the alien eyeball octopus was supposedly the inspiration for Kodos and Kang from The Simpsons, though they have also been credited to an EC Comics cover, so who knows? Certainly not me. And number 3 on the list, The It, from It, The Terror from Beyond Space from 1958. Easily one of the most requested films here at the snack bar, It, The Terror from Beyond Space tells the story of a mission to Mars where the entire crew, except for the captain, is killed under mysterious circumstances. When a second mission investigates, it's believed that the sole survivor I said sole survivor. That joke doesn't even make sense. It's like the drunken scoundrel who writes these scripts isn't even trying anymore. But it's believed that the sole survivor did away with the rest of the crew. But our wayward captain claims that it was in fact a hostile Martian life form, which, spoiler, it was. And this is a great, almost reptilian alien design. And it was created by a gentleman I may have mentioned a time or 60, Mr. Paul Blaisdell. And apparently this wasn't one of his favorite gigs. Edward Small, who financed the picture, kept changing his mind as to whether or not he wanted the creature to have plastic eyes or not. Another source of aggravation came courtesy of the suit actor, the great gorilla man Ray Crash Corrigan, who you may know from such works as Bela Lugosi Meets a Brooklyn Gorilla and the Three Stooges short Dizzy Detectives. Thanks, Greg. Corrigan, it's claimed, didn't want to make the drive out to Blaisdell's studio, and thus exact measurements could not be taken of the actor. So whereas it appears that the Martian has his tongue sticking out, it's actually Corrigan's chin popping out of the ill-fitted mask. Blaisdell would end up adding a set of teeth on the bottom to try and cover this somewhat. It's also said that Corrigan damaged the suit a few times, and Blaisdell had to be called in for repairs. According to Paul Blaisdell biography Monster Maker by Randy Palmer, United Artists would then reuse the Martian costume for the 1959 film Invisible Invaders, but optical effects were used to distort the image, making it difficult to tell that it was the Blaisdell design, of which he was not paid for the reuse. The original title of the film was It the Vampire from Beyond Space, and it's often said that this is the film that inspired the screenplay for Alien from 1979. And with that, we should take a break.
Okay, buddy, what do you think of Wilkins coffee?
I never tasted it.
Now, what do you think of Wilkins?
We're here to persuade people to drink more Wilkins coffee,
What's the club for?
to get their attention.
And we're back with number 2 on the list, and that's the plant-like, but not plant-like, alien from I Married a Monster from Outer Space from 1958. And I Married a Monster from Outer Space tells the story of a married couple who, after only a year of marriage, are having some problems. The husband has grown distant and cold towards his bride, and she doesn't know why. Soon she finds that Bill isn't the only fellow in town displaying this strange behavior. So one evening when he goes for a walk, Marge follows and discovers that her husband is actually an alien imposter. And I'll leave it at that. And this is an excellent creature design with an almost plant-like appearance. Well, no almost about it, I'll get back to that in a minute. But this is an iconic alien from a very strong sci-fi film. That said, information on said alien's design was surprisingly scarce, with only special photographic effects being credited. And more on that in a moment. Luckily, there are suit actors credited for the film, the first being the legendary Charles Gamora, who I've discussed before and will discuss again. Gamora was a makeup artist, actor, sculptor, and rightfully known as the King of the Gorilla Men, having played gorillas over 50 times, and some of his roles include The Monster and the Girl, Murders in the Rue Morgue, and Tarzan the Tiger. Next we have Joe Gray credited as an alien. Gray was a boxer, actor, and stuntman with small parts in films such as War of the Worlds, The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, and Escape from the Planet of the Apes. Always dig it when I can work some Planet of the Apes action into one of these episodes. Now here's a guess on my part. As to who did the actual creature effects, John P. Fulton, who did the photography effects, was also an accomplished special effects artist, having worked on The Wolfman, Ghost of Frankenstein, and Son of Frankenstein. It's possible he did both. Also, the aforementioned Charles Gamora was credited as a makeup artist on the film, so that's a possibility as well. It's said that he worked on the Martian suit from War of the Worlds, but if anyone knows for sure, let me know in the comments. And now back to my first to be continued comment. My first exposure to I Married a Monster from Outer Space was the Diner Space Creatures toy line from 1980. Maybe late 70s. This fantastic line of small rubber figures were mostly based on classic sci-fi properties, ranging from Icar from The Outer Limits, to the aliens from Invasion of the Saucermen, to the aliens from I Married a Monster from Outer Space. These were sold carded, as eraser versions, and as fast food prizes. I had the entire line as a lad, and I particularly liked the husband alien figure. And with mine being in brown, I thought for sure it was a tree monster of some kind. I did a full video on my Diner Space Creatures, which I'll try to remember to link at the end of this video. I probably won't though. And number 1 on the list, the Saucermen from Invasion of the Saucermen, from that glorious year of 1957. An Invasion of the Saucermen tells the shocking story of a pair of vicious, ne'er-do-well teenagers who hit a friendly bartending alien with their car. The two then get caught up in an alcohol-fueled alien invasion conspiracy perpetrated in part by the Riddler. I've covered this delightful sci-fi comedy before, but the Saucermen are just too groovy fantastico not to mention here. Also, as I've mentioned before, because I'm extremely redundant and probably redundant in saying I'm redundant, but these are some of the most iconic alien invaders of all times with their large heads, bulging eyes, and fancy little outfits. I'm a real sucker for aliens and fancy little outfits. The effects and costumes and one would assume design were all courtesy of a Mr. Paul Blaisdell, who you may remember way back long ago when I talked about It the Terror from Beyond Space. As far as the suit actors go, we have quite a few here actually credited, including Blaisdell himself. Then we have another channel regular and the unsung hero of classic sci-fi, Bob Burns, is another. Cheers and bottoms up snack bar drinking game players. And finally, there were 4 diminutive actors donning alien suits, which made sense because the Saucermen were rather small of stature. I won't go through them all because most of them did very little other than this film, but I wanted to mention Angelo Rosito, which I probably mispronounced, standing at 2'11". This prolific actor made appearances in Something Wicked This Way Comes, The Wizard of Oz, and several films with Bela Lugosi. He even played Seymour Spider on HR Pufnstuf. And much like I Married a Monster from Outer Space, my first exposure to Invasion of the Saucermen came from the Diner Space Creatures, both of which sit on my sci-fi shelf as we speak, whatever it is you call this we are doing right now. And that's all the time we have for this week. Please like, comment, subscribe, watch the skies.
Ambassador, we got your shipment of Martian melons, but they are having a strange effect on some of the crew. Hold on one moment, Ambassador. What is it, Higginbottom?
Sir, my girlfriend's gone all loony. It's the melons, I tell you. Ooh.
As you can see, Ambassador.
Atomic Monster, we've successfully hijacked the atomic snack bar signal.
Excellent. Excuse me, Ambassador. Patch it in.
You are connected.
Greetings. I am the Astounding Atomic Monster. I am now in control. And I must insist that the best aliens are featured in that Wilder family father and son team production of that 1954 sci-fi classic, Killers from Space.
And this is the beginning.
The film's narrator is Mark Scott, who many of you may know from his hit television show, Home Run Derby.
Hi there, everybody. I'm Mark Scott saying, welcome to Home Run Derby.
Dr. Martin, are you all right?
There's Ron Kennedy, a.k.a. Ron Gans, as Sentry Sergeant Powers, whose distinctive voice you'll remember from such movies as Kentucky Fried Movie, Death Sport, and Sex Freaks.
But our minds have been twisted by the fear of Satan.
The friendliest of all aliens, the Astron Deltas love to make friends from other worlds. They don't judge either. Look, they've befriended legendary monster hunter Peter Graves, so you know their hearts are in the right place.
Order for delivery from Planet X.
On screen. Greetings. What can Atomic Monster get you today?
I want an atomic-style Hawaiian pizza and a side of Martian melon boobies on my face.